Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path.
Psalm 119, 105. There is a silent truth that almost no one dares to speak aloud. And it is this: many people have faith, love God, pray, but they continue to live in the same cycles. It's not rebellion, it's not a lack of love for God, it's not an absence of spirituality. It's something deeper and much more common than we imagine. Because there comes a point where the person silently asks themselves, if I believe, if I pray, if I trust, why isn't my life changing? That question is not always spoken aloud. Sometimes it hides behind smiles. Sometimes it's covered up with positive phrases. Sometimes it's drowned out with more activity, more messages, more noise. But inside, the soul feels weary. Not a physical weariness, a mental and spiritual weariness. The feeling of trying but not moving forward, of loving God but not experiencing clear direction. And when that feeling lingers, something dangerous happens. The person begins to doubt themselves. They wonder if they are doing something wrong, if their faith is not enough, if there is something broken inside them. But today, I need you to listen to this calmly. That confusion is not a sign of lack of faith. It is a sign of a lack of daily direction. The Word of God was never intended to be an occasional beautiful phrase. It was given as constant light, for the path, for every step. For common days, a lamp is useless if it is only lit once. It is useful when it accompanies the journey. And if today you feel that you believe, but you walk in darkness in some areas of your life, this message does not come to accuse you. It comes to light the way. Because before talking about change, before talking about results, before talking about transformation, we need to talk about direction. And that is what we are going to build together here, step by step. There's something many people don't say out loud, not even when they pray. Not because they don't love God, but because it hurts them to admit it. It's that feeling of living the same life over and over, with similar thoughts, similar emotions, similar decisions. Even as the years go by, the person believes, prays, tries to do what's right. But when they look at their life honestly, they feel like something isn't moving. The dreams are still there, faith is still alive, the desire to move forward too. But the results don't come as expected, and that's tiring. Tiring because no one wants to feel that they love God and still live trapped in cycles. Tiring because little by little, the mind starts asking silent questions. What am I doing wrong? Why do others move forward and I don't? Is my faith not enough? These questions don't come from rebellion. They come from emotional exhaustion. Exhaustion from trying to change, exhaustion from starting over, exhaustion from holding on to hope without seeing clarity. And when that fatigue accumulates, something very subtle happens. The person starts living on autopilot, does what they always did, thinks as they always thought, reacts as they always reacted, not because they want to, but because they don't know how to break free from that pattern. So life goes on, but without clear direction. There are no big mistakes, no big falls. But there's no growth either, just an internal feeling that life could be different, and that hurts. It hurts because deep down the person knows they were created to live with more clarity, more peace, more purpose. But they can't sustain that in daily life. Here's something important you need to understand. The problem is not faith. Faith is there, love for God is there. The intention to live well too. What's missing is a direction to guide each day. Because when the mind doesn't receive constant direction, it always returns to what's familiar. Not out of malice, but out of habit. And if today you recognize yourself in these words, this message is not to judge you. It's to help you understand something essential. You are not failing. You are not broken. You are walking without clear daily guidance, and that can change. This is where we need to tell an uncomfortable truth, but one that liberates. Faith by itself does not transform a disordered life. And that doesn't mean faith has no power. It means faith needs direction. Many people believe that having faith is feeling something strong occasionally, an emotional message, an intense prayer. a deep spiritual moment. But life is not built in isolated moments. Life is built in the ordinary day. Faith connects you with God, but it is daily direction that organizes the mind, decisions, and the path. Here's the conflict almost no one wants to face. We want results from a directed life without living directed days. We want clarity, but we let the mind function on autopilot. We want peace, but we don't order our thoughts. We want change, but we repeat the same decisions. And not because we are incapable, but because no one taught us to live with daily direction. So faith remains isolated from routine, from small decisions, from the way we think every day. And when that happens, the person begins to live with an internal division. They love God, but their mind is scattered. They believe in promises, but decide out of fear. They have faith, but they don't have a clear path. This generates frustration, not with God, but with themselves. Because deep down, the person feels, I should be living something different. And here I need to be very clear with you. God did not design faith to be an occasional emotional comfort. He designed faith to be a constant guide. That's why the word speaks of a path, of steps, of daily light. Not a big leap, but a continuous walk. When faith does not translate into daily direction, the mind takes control. And the mind, without direction, always returns to what it knows. That's why life enters cycles. Not due to lack of faith, but due to lack of structure. And understanding this is not to accuse you. It is to lift a burden from you. Because the problem is not you. The problem is that you have been trying to live by faith without a direction that accompanies you every day. And that explains why you strive, you pray, you believe, but you feel like you're not moving forward. This is the turning point. This is where everything begins to change. If you've made it this far, you need to hear this very calmly. It's not your fault. It's not that you lack faith. It's not that you're failing. It's not that God is distant from you. What you've lacked is not love for God, nor intention, nor a desire to live well. What has been missing is daily structure. For a long time, you were taught that faith was feeling something strong, getting emotional, believing intensely. But almost no one taught you how to sustain that faith every day. When there's no emotion, when there's no strength, when routine weighs you down. And here's the relief. If the problem were your faith, there would be no solution. But since the problem is structure, there is one. The human mind needs constant direction. Not because it's weak, but because it was created that way. When there is no daily direction, the mind fills with noise, with repeated thoughts, with unnecessary doubts, with impulsive decisions, and then the person blames themselves, when in reality they are just trying to walk without a map. Imagine someone who wants to reach a place, but only looks at the path once and then keeps walking in the dark. We wouldn't say that person is incapable. We would say they need constant light. The Word of God was never intended to illuminate just one moment. It was given to illuminate the entire path. That's why the tiredness you feel is not spiritual, it's mental. It's the exhaustion of deciding all the time without clear guidance. It's the burden of trying to do well without a structure to support your decisions. And when you understand this, something settles within. The guilt leaves, the pressure drops. Hope stops being fragile because you no longer think, what's wrong with me? Now you think, I need to learn to walk with direction every day. And that changes everything. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are at the exact point where you stop blaming yourself and start organizing your path. And when life gets organized, peace appears, clarity returns, and faith stops being heavy to become rest. Now that the guilt no longer weighs you down, we can talk about the path with clarity. Transformation doesn't begin with a great act of faith. It begins with sustained daily direction. Daily direction is not doing more things. It's not praying more hours. It's not striving to exhaustion. Daily direction is aligning your mind every day with the correct truth before the world's noise decides for you. Because every day, without realizing it, your mind makes small decisions. How you react, what thought you accept, what fear you feed, what truth you ignore. And those small decisions build the course of your life. That's why repetition is so important. The mind is not transformed by a truth heard only once. It is transformed when that truth becomes daily practice. Not because you are slow, but because that's how human beings work. God knows that. That's why His Word speaks of meditating day and night, of walking, of remaining, of persevering. It's not insistence, it's wisdom. Daily direction functions like internal training. Every day, a little more clarity. Every day, a little more order. Every day, a better sustained decision. And over time, life begins to respond. Not magically, naturally. Decisions become firmer. Anxiety loses strength. The mind stops running in circles. Because you're no longer improvising life. You're walking with a structure. That is practical wisdom, not elevated theories, but applicable truths to the common day, to the common morning, to the difficult conversation, to the silent decision. When faith is lived this way, it stops being heavy. It stops being confusing. It stops depending on mood. It becomes a foundation. And when you have a firm foundation, life stops feeling fragile. Not because there are no challenges, but because you no longer walk without direction. At this point, something has already begun to stir within you. It's not a fleeting emotion, it's clarity. It's that moment when you stop thinking, I wish my life would change, and you start thinking, I need to live differently. The difference is profound because it's no longer about waiting for an external miracle. It's about taking daily care of your mind and your path. Here the true internal shift occurs. The person understands that they cannot continue living only on spiritual impulses, on intense moments, on decisions made in the midst of emotion. They understand that life is defined by what is repeated when no one is watching. In how they think upon waking, in how they interpret problems, in how they respond when something doesn't go as expected. And for the first time, instead of feeling guilty, they feel responsible for their direction. Not with a heavy burden, with awareness. Because being responsible is not about loading yourself with pressure. It's about choosing to take care of yourself. It's understanding that the mind needs guidance every day, just as the body needs nourishment. And here a silent but powerful decision is born. I don't want to keep improvising my life. I don't want to keep repeating cycles. I want to walk with clarity, even if it's step by step. This decision doesn't shout, it's not announced. It's not publicized, but it transforms. Because from here, the person stops seeking only inspiration and starts seeking accompaniment. They stop wanting an occasional strong word and start needing a correct word every day. That is spiritual and mental maturity. It's when faith stops being an emotional refuge and becomes a conscious way of living. And when you reach this point, you no longer settle for less. Not because you feel better than others, but because you have already understood that your life deserves direction, not just intention. This is the most delicate and most powerful moment of the process. Because here there are no grand promises, only a clear truth. Life changes when you choose to walk well every day. And that choice is within your reach. If you've made it this far, you already know something important about yourself. You're not looking for more motivation. You're looking for direction. Motivation pushes for a moment. Direction accompanies you every day. Life doesn't change when you understand a truth once. It changes when you choose to walk with it consistently. And this is where many people stop. Not because they don't believe, not because they don't want to, but because they don't know how to sustain that path day by day. The clarity you feel now should not remain only in this moment, because the mind, if not cared for, returns to noise, returns to haste, returns to old patterns. That's why more important than hearing a message is to have daily accompaniment, a word that orders the mind every morning, a truth that sustains your decisions, a direction that doesn't depend on your mood. That's what makes the difference between those who understand and those who transform their lives. That's why I left something in the comments. It's not for everyone. It's for those who have already understood that they don't want to keep improvising their path. It's for those who wish to live with clarity, practical faith, and daily direction. Look at it calmly, without rushing, like someone who decides to take care of themselves. And before you go, do something simple yet powerful. write the word direction in the comments. Not for me, for you, as a silent reminder that today you choose to walk with light and not to wander in darkness again. Because life doesn't change on a perfect day. It changes when you choose well every day. And today, that choice has already begun. Before this video ends, allow yourself to stay here a few more seconds. Not to do anything, not to decide anything, just to breathe. Because when something stirs within, it doesn't need haste. It needs care. Clarity is also fragile when not protected. Today, you didn't hear a grand promise. You heard a simple truth. Life changes when you walk with daily direction. And that truth doesn't demand perfection. It demands constancy. It doesn't demand extraordinary strength. It demands presence. There will be days when you feel strong. There will be days when you feel tired. That is also part of the path. The difference is that now you know that you don't need to walk alone, nor improvise your life every morning. Walking with direction doesn't mean everything will be easy. It means you will no longer walk blindly, and that brings peace. If something within you settled today, take care of it. Don't extinguish it with noise. Don't ignore it out of habit. Peace is also a form of faith. Clarity is also obedience. Constancy is also self-love. Keep walking one day at a time, with enough light for the next step. That's all it takes for life, little by little, to start responding.